I was just a lonely omega living in isolation until the day a dying wolf pup and its mysterious protector crashed into my life, changing everything I thought I knew about myself. What would you do when the most powerful alpha in the kingdom wants not just the pup you've raised as your own, but your heart as well? The morning sun peeked through my window as I woke up alone, just like every day for the past 5 years. My small cabin sat at the very edge of our packlands, far from everyone else. That's how they wanted it. That's how I needed it to be. I'm what they call an omega wolf, the lowest rank, the one nobody wants. But I'm even worse than a normal omega. I was born without a scent. In our world, that's like being born without a voice or a face. Wolves know each other by smell. We find our mates by smell. We make friends by smell. But me? I smell like nothing. Defective. My mother had called me before she left me alone at 18. You'll never find a mate, never have pups. What good are you? I looked at my face in the small cracked mirror by my bed. Big brown eyes stared back at me. Long brown hair fell around my face. I didn't look broken, but everyone said I was. I got out of bed and pulled on my old blue dress. It had 3 patches and a tear at the hem, but it was clean. I had to look my best today, even if no one would really see me. It was the spring gathering. The one time each year I had to go into the pack grounds and show my face. My hands shook as I picked up my small wooden hairbrush. 1, 2, 3. I counted each stroke through my hair until I reached 100. Counting calmed me down, made the scared feeling in my chest get smaller. I walked to my little kitchen and ate a piece of bread with honey. The sweet taste made me smile for a moment. Small joys. That's what I lived for now. Outside, birds sang in the tall pine trees around my cabin. I closed my eyes and breathed in the smell of dirt and trees and spring flowers. I couldn't smell other wolves, but I could smell everything else just fine. Maybe even better than most. I spent the day cleaning my home and picking fresh flowers to bring as a gift. Blue ones, purple ones, white ones with yellow centers. I put them in a basket with a cloth on top to keep them fresh. As the sun began to set, my heart beat faster. Time to go. I didn't want to. Every year, I thought about staying home, just not going. But then they would come looking for me, and that would be worse. The walk to the pack grounds took 40 minutes. With each step, the knot in my stomach grew bigger. I could hear the sounds of the gathering before I saw it. Laughter, music, howls of joy, sounds of a family I wasn't really part of. I stopped at the edge of the big clearing. Hundreds of lanterns hung from trees, making the whole place glow like magic. Tables full of food lined one side. People danced around a huge fire in the middle. Children ran and played. Couples held hands and kissed in dark corners. No one noticed me standing there. They never did. I was like a ghost to them. A sad story they told their pups. Be good or you'll end up like that weird girl who lives alone in the woods. I took a deep breath and stepped into the light. I had to find Beta James and Beta Sarah, our pack leaders, give them my flower gift, and then I could leave. Quick and easy, in and out. But as soon as I entered, I felt eyes on me. Not all eyes, just a few. The ones who like to make fun. "Look who's here," said a voice behind me. "The girl with no smell." I didn't turn around, didn't give them what they wanted, just kept walking, my eyes on the ground, counting my steps. 1, 2, 3. "Hey, I'm talking to you." A hand grabbed my arm, making me stop. It was Tess. She had hated me since we were pups together. Now she was mated to a strong fighter wolf and had 2 children. Everything I would never have. "Nice dress," she said with a mean smile. "Did you find it in the trash?" Her friends laughed. My cheeks felt hot. I want it to disappear. "I need to give my gift to the betas," I said in a quiet voice. "Why do you even come?" Tess asked. "No one wants you here. You make everyone uncomfortable." I finally looked up at her. The law says all pack members must attend the spring gathering. I'm following the law. Tess rolled her eyes. Always so perfect, aren't you? Following all the rules won't make you normal. She let go of my arm with a little push. I held my basket tighter and walked away. 20 more steps. That's all I needed to reach Beta James and Beta Sarah. I could do this. They sat on big wooden chairs on a small stage. Beta James was tall with gray in his dark beard. Beta Sarah was pretty with kind eyes. They weren't mean to me, just distant. Like they didn't know what to do with me. I stood in line behind other wolves bringing gifts. When it was my turn, I stepped forward and bowed my head. I bring flowers from the East Woods, I said, holding out my basket. Beta Sarah took it with a small smile. Thank you, they're lovely. Beta James just nodded. Then they looked past me to the next person. My time was up. I turned to leave, relief washing over me. Almost done. I just needed to stay for 1 hour. That was the rule. 1 hour, then I could go home to my quiet cabin. I found a place to stand near a tall oak tree, away from the fire and the dancing. From here, I could watch without being seen. It was almost nice in a sad way, like looking through a window at a party I wasn't invited to. The music played. People laughed. The smell of roasted meat and sweet cakes filled the air. I watched a mother dance with her small daughter, spinning her around until she giggled. I watched friends hugging and sharing stories. I watched mates feeding each other bits of food, love clear in their eyes. I was so busy watching that I didn't notice the change at first. The way people suddenly stood straighter, the way voices got quieter, the way everyone turned to look at something. Someone. He walked into the clearing like he owned it. Tall, so much taller than anyone else. Wide shoulders, dark hair. He wore all black, with a silver pin on his chest that caught the firelight. But it was his face that made me forget to breathe. Strong jaw, straight nose, and his eyes. Even from far away, I could see they were the color of amber or gold, glowing in the light of the fire. Everyone bowed as he passed. Beta James and Beta Sarah quickly stood from their chairs, looking nervous. "Who is that?" I whispered to myself. A young boy standing nearby heard me. "That's the Alpha King from the North Mountain Pack," he said, eyes wide with wonder. "The most powerful alpha in 10 kingdoms. They say he can kill with just a look." The Alpha King. Here? Why? Our pack was small, not important. We hadn't had our own alpha in 50 years, just betas who kept the peace. I pressed back against the tree, trying to make myself even smaller. Someone like him would hate someone like me even more than my own pack did. But as he talked with our betas, his head suddenly turned, like he felt something. His golden eyes swept across the crowd and found me. Time stopped. My heart stopped. Everything stopped. His eyes locked with mine across the distance. 100 people between us, yet it felt like we were alone. His face changed, just a little. His eyes narrowed, his head tilted slightly. A feeling I'd never felt before rushed through me. Hot and cold at the same time. Scary but good. Like falling from a great height but knowing something would catch me. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Then he took a step toward me. No, 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 no. I ran, turned and fled into the dark woods, away from the lights and music, away from those golden eyes that saw me when no one else did. I ran all the way home, not stopping once. My lungs burned, my legs hurt, but the strange feeling hurt more. Inside my cabin, I locked the door and slid down to the floor, shaking. What had just happened? Why had he looked at me? Why had I felt so strange? I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to stop trembling. Tomorrow things would be normal again. Just me, alone in my cabin, safe, unseen. But as I finally crawled into bed that night, I couldn't forget those golden eyes. And for the first time in years, I dreamed of something other than loneliness. 3 days passed since the spring gathering. I tried to forget those golden eyes that had seen me across the clearing. I went back to my quiet life, picking herbs in the morning, cleaning my small cabin in the afternoon, reading old books at night, alone but safe. That was my way. But on the third night, the world changed. It started with wind, strong gusts that made the trees bend and sway like dancers. Then came dark clouds, heavy with rain. They covered the moon and stars, turning night even darker. I sat by my fireplace, a warm cup of tea in my hands, listening to the first drops hit my roof. Tap, 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 tap. Soon it was pouring, water rushing down like a river falling from the sky. Lightning flashed, turning my little cabin bright as day for a second. Thunder followed so loud it made my cups rattle on their shelf. Another flash, another boom. The storm was right above me. I wasn't scared of storms. I liked them, actually. They made me feel less alone somehow, like the sky was talking to me. I was about to get ready for bed when I heard it. A sound that wasn't rain or wind or thunder. Bang, bang, bang. Someone was at my door. My heart jumped to my throat. No one ever came to my cabin, especially not during a storm in the middle of the night. Bang, bang, bang. "Please," called a deep voice from outside. "Help us." Us? There was more than one person? I stood frozen, holding my breath. Should I open the door? It could be a trick. Some of the meaner pack members like to play jokes on me. "Please," the voice called again, weaker this time. "We need help." Something in that voice made my feet move. I grabbed my small knife from the kitchen, just in case, and walked to the door. My hand shook as I lifted the wooden bar that kept it locked. I opened the door just a crack and peeked out. The breath left my body. There he stood, the Alpha King with the golden eyes, soaking wet from the rain. His black hair stuck to his face. But something was wrong. His eyes didn't look powerful now. They looked wild with fear or pain. Blood ran down the side of his face from a cut near his hairline. And in his arms, wrapped in his jacket, was a small bundle. "Take him," the Alpha said, his voice rough like he'd been running for hours. He pulled back the edge of his jacket. A tiny wolf pup lay there, eyes closed, barely moving. Its silver fur was wet and matted with what looked like blood. Before I could speak, the Alpha swayed on his feet and then fell forward. I jumped back, but not fast enough. He crashed across my doorway, half in my cabin, half still in the rain. "They're still hunting," he mumbled, trying to push himself up. "I need to lead them away from here." "Who?" I asked, my voice small with fear. "Who's hunting you?" He looked up at me, rain mixing with blood on his face. "Take the pup, hide him. Don't tell anyone he's here." "But who are you? Why would you come to me?" I asked, confused and scared. Pain filled his golden eyes. "No one you should know." He pushed the tiny pup into my hands. "Please." Then he was gone, disappearing into the storm and darkness so fast I wondered if I dreamed him. But the small, warm weight in my hands was real. I looked down at the wolf pup. He was tiny, maybe just a few weeks old. His eyes were still closed. His silver fur was dirty and had dark spots that I now saw were dried blood. But worst of all, he wasn't moving much, just small, shallow breaths. I quickly closed my door and locked it again. My mind raced with questions. Why was the Alpha King running? Who was hunting him? Why did he bring this pup to me, of all people? And what was I supposed to do now? The pup made a small, weak sound, like a cry for help, but he didn't have the strength for a real cry. My questions would have to wait. This tiny life needed me now. I carried him to my small table and gently set him down on a clean towel. In the light, I could see how bad things were. The pup was too thin. I could count his little ribs. And there was a wound on his back leg. Not big, but deep. You poor thing, I whispered. What happened to you? The pup's eyes stayed closed, but his small pink tongue came out to lick my finger when I touched his head. Something squeezed in my chest, a feeling I didn't know. I got to work. First, I heated water and found my softest cloth. Gently, so gently, I cleaned the dirt and blood from his fur. He whimpered when I touched his hurt leg, but he didn't try to bite me. I know, I said in a soft voice. It hurts. I'm sorry. I'm trying to help. When he was clean, I could see the wound better. It looked like a bite from a bigger animal. I put my special herb paste on it, the one I made for cuts and bites. Then I wrapped his little leg with a strip of clean cloth. Next, I mixed goat's milk with a little honey. The pup was too weak to drink on his own, so I dipped my finger in the mix and let him lick it off, again and again, until he had taken a good amount. That's it, I said, smiling as he eagerly licked the sweet milk. You're going to be okay. I made a soft bed for him near the fire, using an old blanket folded into a circle. I placed him in the middle, and he curled up into a tiny ball. His breathing seemed a little stronger now. As the storm raged outside, I sat next to the pup, watching him sleep. Questions filled my head like buzzing bees. The Alpha King had been hurt, bleeding, running from someone. And he had come to me, Emmy, the packless Omega that everyone avoided. It made no sense. And this pup, where had he come from? Why was he so important that the Alpha would risk his life to save him? I gently touched the pup's soft head. Who are you, little one? As if hearing my question, the pup snuggled closer to my hand in his sleep. Something strange and warm spread through my chest. I had never taken care of anyone or anything before. No one had ever needed me, but this tiny pup needed me now. He would die without my help. I looked at the door, half expecting angry wolves to burst through it any minute. If someone was hunting the Alpha King, and if they knew he had brought the pup to me, fear crawled up my spine like a cold spider. I should take the pup to Beta James and Beta Sarah tomorrow. Tell them what happened. Let them deal with this danger. But then I remembered how the Alpha had looked at me, the desperate trust in his golden eyes. Hide him, he had said. Don't tell anyone. He had trusted me when he had no one else to turn to. Why? The pup's heartbeat fluttered under my fingertips like a tiny bird's wings. So fragile, so trusting. I made my choice then, sitting by the fire with a storm howling outside and a dying pup under my hand. I would help them both, the mysterious Alpha and this innocent pup. For the first time in my life, I felt needed, important, like maybe I wasn't broken after all. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake, watching over the pup, feeding him a little milk every hour. By morning, his breathing was stronger. The rain had stopped, and sunlight peeked through my windows. I carefully picked up the sleeping pup and held him against my chest. His tiny heart beat next to mine. I'll call you Shadow, I whispered, touching his silver fur, and I promise I'll keep you safe. Outside, birds began to sing again after the storm. A new day, a new purpose. I didn't know it then, but that night had changed everything. The moment I opened my door to a wounded Alpha and a dying pup, my lonely life had taken a turn that could never be undone. And somewhere out there, a king was running, bleeding, drawing danger away from my little cabin, away from me, and the precious life he had trusted me with. I hoped he would come back, and I hoped he would be alive when he did. Weeks passed, and Shadow grew stronger every day. His eyes opened on the fourth day, bright blue like a summer sky. When he saw me for the first time, he made a happy yipping sound and licked my hand. My heart felt too big for my chest in that moment. By the end of the first week, Shadow could walk a little on his hurt leg. I changed his bandage twice a day and put fresh herb paste on the wound. The deep bite was healing clean, with no bad smell or heat that would mean sickness inside. Shadow started to eat solid food, small bits of cooked meat and soft veggies. His little body filled out, no more counting ribs. His silver fur grew shiny and thick, and his eyes followed me everywhere I went in my small cabin. At night, he slept curled against my neck, his warm little body trusting me completely. I hadn't slept so well in years. During the day, I talked to him as I worked. I told him about the herbs I picked and what each one did. I sang him old songs my grandmother had taught me before she died. I even told him my deepest thoughts, things I'd never told anyone. "You know, Shadow," I said one afternoon as I hung herbs to dry, "before you came, I was so lonely I sometimes went days without speaking. Now I can't stop talking." Shadow barked as if answering me, then playfully attacked my foot. I laughed, another thing I rarely did before. There was still no sign of the Alpha King. Sometimes I wondered if he was dead, killed by whoever had been hunting him. The thought made my stomach hurt. I pushed it away and focused on Shadow. But then, when the moon had gone from full to half to nearly new, there was a knock at my door. It was evening. I had just fed Shadow and was reading a book while he played with a ball of yarn. The knock was soft, not scary like the night of the storm. Still, I grabbed my knife before going to the door. "Who is it?" I called, trying to sound brave. "It's me," said a deep voice I somehow knew right away. My hands shook as I opened the door. There he stood, the Alpha King, but different from before. No blood, no wild fear in his eyes. He wore simple clothes, a gray shirt and dark pants. His black hair was tied back. He looked normal, almost. Those golden eyes still made my heart skip like a jumping frog. "You came back," I whispered. Before he could answer, a silver streak shot between my legs. Shadow ran to the Alpha, jumping and yipping with pure joy. The Alpha's face changed. The serious look melted away, replaced by a real smile as he knelt down. Shadow jumped into his arms, licking his face, his tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. "Hello, little warrior," the Alpha said, his voice gentle in a way I hadn't heard before. "You look strong and well." He looked up at me. Thanks to her. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, watching this powerful man hold the pup I had come to love. "May I come in?" he asked. I nodded and stepped back. Inside my small home, he looked even bigger. His head nearly touched my low ceiling. His shoulders seemed to take up so much space, but he moved carefully, like he was trying not to break anything. He sat at my table while I made tea with shaking hands. Shadow stayed in his lap, still so excited he could barely keep still. "What should I call you?" I asked, placing a cup of tea in front of him. "Alpha King seems too much for my little cabin." A small smile touched his lips. "Gray. You can call me Gray." "That's not your real name," I said before I could stop myself. He raised an eyebrow. "No, but it will do for now." I sat across from him, watching as he sipped the tea. Shadow had finally calmed down and was now sleeping in his lap. "Thank you," Gray said, looking at the pup, "for saving him, for taking care of him when I couldn't." "He saved me too," I said, surprising myself with my honesty. I was so alone before. "Why do you live out here by yourself?" he asked. "So far from your pack?" I looked down at my hands. "I told you, I'm an Omega with no scent. No one wants me around. Your pack is foolish then." I looked up, shocked. No one had ever said something like that before. Gray's golden eyes held mine. "Being different doesn't make you less. Sometimes it makes you more." A warm feeling spread through my chest. I quickly looked away, not knowing how to handle such kind words. "What happened that night?" I asked, changing the subject. "Who was chasing you? Why did you bring Shadow to me?" Gray was quiet for a long moment. "It's a long story, and a dangerous one." "I have time," I said, "and my life was pretty boring before you crashed into it." Another small smile. "Fair enough." He took a deep breath. "Shadow is special, important. There are wolves who would hurt him to hurt me. I was taking him somewhere safe when we were attacked. I killed 2 of them, but more were coming. I was hurt, slowing down. Shadow needed safety. But why me? I asked. There must have been others who could help. Strong fighters. Healers. Gray looked at me with those golden eyes that seemed to see right through me. I saw you at the gathering, standing alone under that tree, watching everyone but apart from them. I saw how they treated you, how you held yourself with quiet dignity despite it all. His voice got softer. I saw you. Something inside me cracked open. A wall I had built over years of being alone, being different, being unwanted. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. I turned away, wiping at my face. I'm sorry. I don't usually cry in front of others. I don't usually have others to cry in front of. Don't be sorry, Gray said. There's no weakness in feeling. Every night after that, Gray came back. Always after dark. Always careful that no one saw him. He never stayed until morning, but each visit lasted longer than the one before. We would sit by my small fire, shadow playing between us, and talk in low voices. Gray told me about lands far from our small pack territory, about mountains so tall they touched clouds, about forests so old the trees could remember the first wolves, about cities where humans and wolves lived together in peace. I told him about my life, how my father had left when I was born without a cent, how my mother had tried to love me but couldn't understand what I was, how the pack children had been cruel, the pack adults worse in their cold pity. I stopped trying to fit in when I was 15. I said one night, I built this place when I turned 18 and just disappeared from pack life. It was easier than seeing the looks on their faces. Gray didn't offer empty words or useless pity. He just listened, his golden eyes warm in the firelight. One night, as a gentle rain fell outside, Gray said, "Show me your herbs, the ones you used to heal Shadow." I smiled and brought out my collection. Dried leaves and flowers hung from my ceiling. Jars of roots and berries lined my shelves. I showed him each one, explaining what it did, how I found it, how I learned to use it. "You have a gift," he said when I finished. "A true healer's touch. Your pack is blind not to see it." His words felt like sunshine after years of rain. As weeks turned into a month, something changed between us. Small touches his hand, brushing mine as I handed him tea, sitting closer each night, the way his eyes followed me around my small cabin. Shadow grew bigger, now the size of a normal pup his age. He could run and play without limping. His silver fur shone in the sun when I took him outside to play in the small clearing behind my cabin. One night, Gray arrived later than usual. I had worried, pacing my floor until Shadow got dizzy watching me. When he finally knocked, I threw open the door, ready to scold him for making me worry. But the words died in my throat. Gray stood there, moonlight turning his black hair silver at the edges. His golden eyes held something new, something that made my heart beat faster. "I missed you today," he said simply. "You see me every night," I answered, my voice breathless. "It's not enough anymore." He stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth of his body. Slowly, carefully, as if I might break or run away, he raised his hand and touched my cheek. "Your pack is wrong about you," he said, his voice low. "You're not broken. You're just waiting." "For what?" I whispered. His eyes gleamed in the moonlight. "To bloom." When his lips touched mine, gentle as a butterfly landing on a flower, something inside me woke up. A part of me I never knew existed, suddenly coming to life. My hands found his shoulders, holding on as if I might float away without him. Shadow barked happily at our feet, jumping around us, tail wagging. When Gray pulled back, his eyes were bright with wonder. "Do you feel that?" he asked, and I did. A strange warmth spreading through my body, a feeling of rightness, of coming home after being lost. "What is it?" I asked. He smiled, a real, full smile that changed his whole face. Magic, the oldest kind there is. That night, Gray stayed later than ever before. We sat close on my small couch, Shadow sleeping between us, and talked about everything and nothing. I told him my dreams, my fears. He told me stories of his childhood. For the first time in my life, I wasn't alone. For the first time, someone saw me, all of me, and stayed anyway. When he finally left with a promise to return the next night, I stood in my doorway watching him disappear into the dark trees. Shadow pressed against my leg, looking up at me with his bright blue eyes. "I know," I said to him, my heart too full for more words. "I know. Something was happening to me. Something scary and wonderful. Something that felt like hope." The summer sun warmed my skin as I sat on a log outside my cabin. Shadow played in the grass, now as big as my arm is long. His silver fur shone like water under sunlight as he chased butterflies and jumped after birds. He had grown so much in the 2 months since that stormy night. I had made us a lunch of bread, berries, and honey. Shadow loved honey. He would lick it from my finger, his pink tongue tickling my skin. Today I gave him his own small bowl, laughing as he got the sticky sweetness all over his face. "You're a mess," I told him, using a damp cloth to clean his fur. He just wagged his tail and tried to lick my face. The summer days were peaceful. I spent mornings gathering herbs, afternoons making medicines, and evenings with Gray. He came every night now, staying longer each time. Last night, he had not left until the first light of dawn touched the sky. Something was growing between us, something warm and bright that scared me a little. I had been alone so long, I didn't know how to be with someone. But Gray was patient, never pushing too hard or too fast. Shadow's head suddenly snapped up, his ears pointing forward. He made a low growling sound I had never heard from him before. "What is it?" I asked, standing up. Shadow ran to me, standing in front of my legs like he was guarding me. His little body was stiff, his tail no longer wagging. That's when I heard them. Footsteps. Not one person. Many. 4 wolves stepped out of the trees into my small clearing. 3 men and 1 woman, all wearing the marks of Beta's silver pins with blue stones. But not from our pack. Their pins had different shapes. They were from another territory. "Well, well," said the tallest one, a man with red hair and cold eyes. "So this is where he's been hiding." I pulled Shadow closer to me, my heart beating so fast I could hear it in my ears. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to sound brave. "This is Packland. You don't belong here." The woman laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. Listen to the little Omega trying to sound tough. "We're not here for you," said the red-haired man. "We're looking for someone, a traitor to the Northern Alliance. We tracked him to this area." My blood turned cold. They were looking for Gray. These were the people who had been hunting him that stormy night. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said. "I live alone." The red-haired man took a step closer. "Don't lie to me, Omega. We know he's been here. We can smell him all around this place." I blinked in surprise. They could smell Gray here? But I had no scent. How could they smell someone on me or in my home? "I haven't seen anyone," I said, backing up toward my cabin door. "Please leave." The 4 betas spread out, circling my cabin. The woman picked up the plate where Gray and I had eaten dinner last night. "Still warm," she said. "He was here recently." "Search the cabin," the red-haired man ordered. "No!" I cried. "You can't go in my home!" Shadow growled louder, the sound strange coming from his small body. The fur on his back stood up, making him look bigger. The red-haired man looked at Shadow and frowned. "What's that?" "My wolf," I said, putting my hand on Shadow's head. I raised him. The 4 betas looked at each other. Something passed between them, a look of understanding or worry. "Silver fur," one of the men said quietly. "Blue eyes." "It can't be," the woman replied. That line was ended. The red-haired man's face turned angry. Where did you get that pup? He demanded, taking another step toward me. Shadow growled again, a sound too deep for his young body. It seemed to come from somewhere ancient inside him. He's mine, I said, fear making my voice shake. I found him in the woods. You're lying, the red-haired man snarled. That's a royal pup. Give him to me, and we might let you live. Asko, royal pup? What were they talking about? Shadow was just a wolf pup, wasn't he? No, I said, surprising myself with how strong my voice sounded. He's mine. You won't take him. The red-haired man's face twisted with anger. You dare, he growled. You dare challenge 4 betas. You're nothing but a defective Omega. What can you possibly do to stop us? He reached for me, his hand like a claw ready to grab. Shadow jumped forward, snapping his teeth at the man's hand. The beta yanked back, just in time to avoid being bitten. You little! He raised his hand to hit Shadow. Don't touch him! I screamed. Then a sound came from the trees, a sound like thunder on the ground. We all turned to look. Gray stepped out of the forest, but different than I had ever seen him. Power seemed to roll off him in waves that I could almost see in the air. His golden eyes glowed with an inner light. His face was hard as stone. You dare, he said, his voice low and terrible. You dare threaten what's mine. The 4 betas backed up, their faces suddenly white with fear. My king, the red-haired man gasped. We didn't know. You didn't know she was under my protection? Gray's voice was like ice. You didn't know the pup was in my care? You who have sworn oaths to serve the Northern Throne? My head spun with confusion. King? Throne? What was happening? We were told you were dead, the woman beta said, her voice shaking. That traitors had killed you and the last prince. Gray's eyes narrowed. And who told you this lie? The 4 betas looked at each other, fear clear on their faces. Beta Marcus of the Mountain Pack, the red-haired man finally said. Gray's face grew even harder. I see. So the betrayal spreads wider than I thought. He took a step forward. The 4 betas took a step back. Return to your packs, Gray said. Tell no one what you saw here today. Not about me, not about the pup, not about her. If I hear even a whisper, I will know who spoke, and I will come for them. Do you understand? They all nodded quickly, heads bobbing up and down like apples in water. Go. The word was quiet, but it carried the weight of a mountain. The 4 betas turned and ran into the forest, not looking back once. When they were gone, I sank to my knees, my legs too weak to hold me up. Shadow rushed to me, licking my face, whining with worry. Gray turned to me, the hard look melting from his face. Are you hurt? He asked, kneeling beside me. I shook my head, still trying to understand what I had just seen. Who are you? I whispered. Really? Gray sighed, a deep sound full of things I couldn't name. I didn't want you to find out this way. The air around him seemed to shimmer and blur. Then, where Gray had been standing, now stood a massive black wolf, twice as big as any wolf I had ever seen. His fur was as black as the night sky, his eyes still that same burning gold. I gasped, falling backward in shock. Shadow made a happy yipping sound and ran to the huge wolf, jumping around him like he was saying hello to an old friend. The black wolf Gray gently nuzzled Shadow with his huge head. Then he stepped back, and the air shimmered again. Gray stood before me once more, but his clothes were gone. He was naked in the summer sunlight, his body covered in scars from old battles. Muscles moved under his skin like water under ice. My face grew hot, and I looked away. I'm sorry, Gray said, grabbing his pants from where they had fallen and putting them back on. Shifting destroys clothes. That's why I usually change in the forest. When I looked back, he had his pants on, but his chest was still bare. A scar shaped like a star marked the skin over his heart. You're an alpha, I said, my voice small with awe. Gray knelt in front of me again, taking my hands in his. "Not just an alpha," he said softly. "What the beta called you? King?" Gray nodded. "I am Rowan, King of the Northern Pack Alliance, ruler of 7 territories, guardian of the old blood." The world seemed to spin around me. The man I had been falling in love with, the man who came to my tiny cabin every night to talk and laugh and hold my hand, was a king, the most powerful alpha in 7 territories. "And Shadow?" I asked, looking at the silver pup who was now sitting calmly at Rowan's Gray's feet. A sad look crossed his face. "Shadow is my nephew, the last of the royal bloodline beside myself. Those wolves were right, he is a royal pup." I stared at Shadow in wonder. The little dying pup I had nursed back to health was a prince? "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, hurt creeping into my voice. "To protect you both," Gray said. "The less you knew, the safer you were. If they caught you, you couldn't tell what you didn't know." I thought of the 4 betas, their faces white with fear when they saw Gray. I thought of the Storm Knight, blood on his face, desperation in his eyes. "Someone is trying to kill you," I said. "And Shadow." Gray nodded. There was a plot, an attack. Shadow's parents, my brother and his mate, were killed. I barely got Shadow out alive. Shadow pressed against my leg, looking up at me with those bright blue eyes that now seemed older, wiser than a normal pup's. "What happens now?" I asked, fear gripping my heart. Now that I knew the truth, would Gray take Shadow away? Would he leave and never come back? Gray's golden eyes held mine. Now I have to make a choice I've been putting off for too long. What choice? Whether to take back my throne now or wait until I found all the traitors. I looked down at our hands, still joined between us. My small, pale ones in his large, tan ones. An Omega and a king. It seemed impossible. "And us?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "What about us?" Gray's hand gently lifted my chin until I looked at him again. "That is no choice at all," he said softly. "Wherever I go, whatever I do, I want you with me." Shadow barked as if agreeing, making us both smile, despite the danger still hanging over us. "They'll come back," I said. "Or others will. They know where to find us now." Gray nodded, his face growing serious again. "You're not safe here anymore. Neither is Shadow." Fear gripped my heart. "Where will we go?" "Somewhere safe, just for a while, until I can finish this." That night, as I packed my few precious things, my mother's old necklace, my book of herbs, the blue blanket Shadow had slept in when he was tiny, I thought about how quickly life can change. 3 months ago, I had been alone, unwanted, broken. Now I was needed, important, loved. Gray had called me his. That word kept echoing in my mind. Mine, like I belonged to someone, like I mattered. Outside my window, the stars shone bright in the summer sky. Tomorrow, we would leave my little cabin, my safe place, for so long. We would go into danger, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't alone. The small wooden cabin hidden deep in the pine forest had been my home for 5 years. Leaving it felt like peeling off my own skin. But Gray, no, Rowan, the Alpha King, said we weren't safe there anymore. I believed him. We left at first light. I carried one small bag with my special things. Shadow trotted beside us, now the size of a young wolf, no longer the tiny pup who had come to me half dead in the storm. "Where are we going?" I asked, stepping carefully over tree roots and fallen branches. "There's a place 3 hours north," Gray said. "A small house that belongs to a friend. No one knows about it." We walked in silence after that. Gray kept stopping to smell the air and listen to the forest. His golden eyes scanned every shadow, his body always ready to fight. I had never seen him so alert, so dangerous looking. Shadow stayed close to me, sometimes rubbing against my leg as if to say, "Don't worry, His blue eyes watched the forest too, his ears moving at every sound. The sun climbed higher as we walked. Birds sang in the trees. A deer and her fawn watched us pass from behind a thick bush. The forest felt peaceful, but I could feel Gray's worry like a storm cloud above us. After 3 hours, we came to a small valley between two hills. A tiny house made of stones sat beside a clear stream. Flowers grew all around it in colors so bright they hurt my eyes: red, purple, yellow, blue. It looked like something from a fairy tale. "It's beautiful," I said. Gray nodded. "My mother used to bring me here when I was small, before she died, before I became king." Inside, the house was just one room with a fireplace, a table with 4 chairs, a small kitchen area, and a big bed with a red blanket. It was dusty from no one living there, but still nice. "We'll be safe here," Gray said, putting down his pack. "No one knows about this place except me now." I opened the windows to let in fresh air while Gray started a fire. Shadow explored every corner, sniffing and wagging his tail. That night, we ate rabbit that Gray caught and cooked. We sat at the small table, the fire making shadows dance on the walls. For a little while, it felt like we were just a normal family in our home. After dinner, Gray said, "Come outside. I want to show you something." He took my hand and led me behind the house, up a small hill. At the top, he stopped and pointed up. The night sky spread above us, like a black blanket covered in diamonds. More stars than I had ever seen. They seemed so close I could almost touch them. "It's the clearest sky in all 7 territories," Gray said. "That's why my mother loved it here." We sat on the soft grass. Shadow curled up beside me. Gray pointed out shapes in the stars: a wolf running, a crown, a river flowing across the sky. "When I was little," he said, "my mother told me that stars are the eyes of all the great kings and queens watching over us." "Do you believe that?" I asked. His golden eyes looked sad in the starlight. "I want to." Later, in the small stone house, we lay in the big bed with Shadow at our feet. Gray held me close, his heart beat steady against my back. I felt safe in his arms, protected. "I love you," I whispered into the darkness, saying the words for the first time. His arms tightened around me. "And I love you, more than I thought possible." I fell asleep smiling, but when morning came, everything changed. I woke up alone in the bed. Gray stood by the window, fully dressed, looking out at the sunrise. His back was straight, his shoulders stiff. He looked like a king again, not the man who had held me all night. "What's wrong?" I asked, sitting up. He turned, and my heart dropped to my stomach. His face was different, closed off, serious, like when he had faced the 4 betas in my clearing. "I have to go," he said. 2 simple words that broke my world apart. "Go?" I repeated, not understanding. "Go where?" Gray came to sit on the edge of the bed. Shadow jumped up to put his head on Gray's lap. "The traitors who killed my brother are still out there," Gray said, his voice low and hard. "They think I'm dead, which has given me time. But after those betas saw us, word will spread. I need to act now." My hands twisted the red blanket. "I'll come with you. We'll all go." Gray shook his head. "It's too dangerous. I'm going to the mountain pack first. Beta Marcus is there, the one who told others I was dead. I need to know who else is part of this plot before I take back my throne." "But we just found this place," I said, my voice breaking. "We're safe here." "I won't be gone long," Gray said, but his eyes told a different story. A few weeks at most. Weeks? Tears filled my eyes. I had spent years alone, but the thought of Gray leaving now hurt worse than all those lonely days combined. "Shadow needs to stay with you," Gray continued. "He's still not strong enough to fight, and they'll be looking for him too." I looked at Shadow, who watched us with wise blue eyes. "You want me to keep him safe?" Gray nodded. "There's no one I trust more." "When will you leave?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Now, right away. The sooner I go, The sooner I can come back to you both. The tears spilled down my cheeks. I didn't try to hide them. I'm afraid, I admitted. Afraid you won't come back. Gray took my face in his hands, wiping away my tears with his thumbs. I will always come back to you, no matter what. He kissed me then, a kiss that felt like a promise and a goodbye all at once. I held on to him, memorizing the feel of him, the smell of him, pine trees and night air and something wild that was just Gray. Too soon, he pulled away. There's food for 3 weeks, he said, his voice now all business. Don't go into the nearby town. Don't trust anyone who comes here. Keep Shadow inside during the day so no one sees him. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Gray stood, picking up a small pack I hadn't noticed before. He must have packed while I was sleeping, planning his leaving even as he held me. I left something for you, he said, pointing to a small wooden box on the table. Don't open it until I'm gone. At the door, he turned back one last time. The morning sun made his black hair shine and his golden eyes glow. Remember what I told you, he said. Your pack was wrong about you. You're not broken. You're just waiting to bloom. He smiled, a sad smile that didn't reach his eyes. And you're blooming now, my love. Every day. Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a soft click that sounded like the end of the world. Shadow whined and ran to the door, scratching at it with his paws. I know, I whispered, tears still falling. I miss him too. After a long time sitting on the bed, feeling empty, I walked to the table. The wooden box was small, fitting in my palm. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a necklace, a silver chain with a small charm, a wolf made of some kind of white stone, its eyes tiny specks of gold. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Under it was a note written in neat, small letters. To remind you that you are never alone. My heart stays with you. G. Fresh tears came as I put on the necklace. The wolf charm sat right over my heart, cool against my skin. Days passed slowly. I kept track of them by making small marks on the wall near the bed. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Shadow and I fell into a quiet routine. Mornings, we stayed inside, me reading the few books that were in the house while Shadow napped by the fire. Afternoons, when the sun was high and hot, we went to the stream behind the house. Shadow would splash in the water, catching small fish while I sat on the bank, my feet in the cool water. Nights were the hardest. We would go up the hill and look at the stars, and I would tell Shadow stories about the shapes Gray had shown us. Then we would go to bed. Shadow curled against me where Gray should have been. 1 week passed. Then 2. The marks on the wall grew in number. I started talking to Shadow more and more, telling him everything, my fears, my hopes, my love for Gray. What if he never comes back? I asked Shadow on the 15th night. What if something happened to him? Shadow just put his head on my lap, his blue eyes serious. Sometimes I was sure he understood every word I said. On the 20th day, I was outside picking berries when Shadow started barking from inside the house. I ran in, heart pounding, afraid something was wrong. He stood at the window, looking out, tail wagging. What is it? I asked, going to look. A family of deer was walking through the small meadow in front of the house. A mother, a father, and a tiny spotted fawn. They moved slowly, stopping to eat the sweet grass. I smiled, my first real smile in days. They're like us, I told Shadow. A family. Then I stopped, surprised at my own words. A family. Was that what we were, me, Gray, and Shadow? The thought made my heart feel both full and achingly empty. That night, I dreamed of Gray. He was running through a dark forest, wolves chasing him. I tried to call out, to warn him, but no sound came from my mouth. I woke up with tears on my face, the wolf charm clutched in my hand. 25 days, 26, 27. On the morning of the 28th day, I was making tea, when I heard Shadow growl. Not his playful growl, but a deep warning sound from his chest. I froze, listening. Then I heard it footsteps outside. More than one person. My heart jumped to my throat. Gray had said 3 weeks. It had been 4. He wasn't coming back. And now someone had found us. Quickly, I grabbed the knife Gray had left me and whispered to Shadow, "Hide under the bed! Quick!" But Shadow didn't move. He stood in front of me, his body tense, fur standing up along his spine. He was protecting me. The door burst open. 4 wolves stood there, not the same ones from my clearing, but wearing the same silver and blue pins, betas from another pack. "There they are," the shortest one said. "The Omega and the pup, just like we were told." "How did you find us?" I asked, holding the knife in front of me. It seemed so small now, facing 4 grown wolves. "We've been tracking you since you left your cabin," said a tall woman with black hair, "waiting for the king to leave you alone." They had been watching us all this time? Fear turned my blood cold. "What do you want?" I asked, though I already knew. "The pup comes with us," said the short man. "The Alpha Council has ordered it." "Alpha Council?" I repeated. "What's that?" The woman smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. "The new ruling body. Your lover isn't king anymore. He's been declared a traitor to all wolf kind." My world tilted sideways. Gray, a traitor? It couldn't be true. "You're lying," I said. "The pup is the last of the old royal line," said another beta. "He belongs to the council now. Step aside, Omega." Shadow growled louder, showing his teeth. Though still young, he looked fierce with his silver fur raised and his blue eyes glowing with anger. "No," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "He stays with me. Gray trusted me to keep him safe." The 4 betas looked at each other, then back at me. "You have 1 day," the woman said. "1 day to say goodbye to the pup. We'll be back tomorrow at this same time. If you try to run, we'll find you. And we won't be so nice next time." They backed out of the house, closing the door behind them. I sank to the floor, my legs too weak to hold me. Shadow came to me, licking my face, whining softly. "What are we going to do?" I whispered, burying my face in his soft fur. Gray wasn't coming back. At least, not soon enough. I was on my own, with a young wolf prince to protect from powerful enemies. For the first time, I truly understood what Gray had meant. I wasn't the same broken girl who had lived alone in a tiny cabin. I wasn't the Omega with no scent, no worth, no future. I was stronger now. Braver. Gray had seen it in me before I saw it in myself. I stood up, wiping away my tears. Shadow looked up at me, waiting. "They won't take you," I promised him. "I won't let them." I touched the wolf charm around my neck. It felt warm now, like it was alive. "We need a plan," I said to Shadow. "And we need it fast." Outside, the sun began to set, painting the sky in colors of fire, red and orange and gold. Like Gray's eyes, like a promise. Somewhere out there, he was fighting his own battles. Now I had to fight mine. I didn't sleep that night. How could I, knowing they would come back for Shadow tomorrow? My mind raced with thoughts, trying to find a way out of this trap. Running wasn't an option. The betas had found us once. They would find us again. Fighting seemed impossible too. I was just 1 Omega against 4 trained betas. Shadow lay beside me on the bed, his blue eyes watching my face like he knew exactly what I was thinking. "I won't let them take you," I whispered, stroking his silver fur. "I promised Gray I'd keep you safe." As the night grew darker, I thought about everything that had happened since that stormy night when Shadow came into my life. How I had changed from a lonely, scared girl into someone who could stand up to betas and care for a royal wolf pup. Gray had seen something in me that I hadn't seen in myself. Strength, courage, worth. "I wish you were here," I said to the empty room. hoping somehow Gray could hear me. I don't know what to do. Outside, an owl hooted. The wind whispered through the trees, and slowly, an idea began to form in my mind. When morning came, I had a plan. Not a perfect plan, but the only one I could think of. "Come on, Shadow," I said, getting out of bed. "We have work to do." First, I packed a small bag with food, water, and my special herbs. Then I took all the blankets from the bed and tore them into long strips, tying them together to make a rope. Next, I went outside to the stream behind the house. Following it upstream, I found what I was looking for, a small cave hidden behind a waterfall. You couldn't see it unless you knew exactly where to look. It was big enough for Shadow to hide in, but too small for a grown wolf to enter. "This is where you'll hide," I told Shadow, showing him the cave. "When I give the signal, you run here and stay quiet until I come for you." Shadow whined, not liking the idea of being separated from me. "I know," I said, hugging him. "I don't like it either, but it's the only way." Back at the house, I worked on the second part of my plan. I mixed some of my special herbs, the ones that made you sleep deeply, into a pot of stew. The betas would be hungry after their journey. If I could get them to eat, they would fall asleep, giving me time to escape with Shadow. The sun climbed higher in the sky. Soon it would be the time the betas had said they would return. I knelt in front of Shadow, taking his face in my hands. "Remember the plan," I said. "When I say now, you run to the cave and hide. Don't come out until you hear me call your special whistle." I demonstrated the 3-note call we had practiced. Shadow licked my face, his eyes serious. Sometimes I was sure he understood human speech perfectly. "I love you," I told him. "You and Gray are my family now, the only family I've ever really had. I won't let anyone take that away." The sound of footsteps made me stand up quickly. They were here. "Stay calm," I whispered to Shadow. "Let me do the talking." The door opened without a knock. The same 4 betas from yesterday entered, filling the small house with their presence. The tall woman seemed to be the leader. "Time's up, Omega," she said. "Hand over the pup." I had practiced what to say, rehearsing it in my head all morning. I made my voice sound sad and defeated. "I know I can't fight you," I said, looking down at the floor. "But can I at least feed you before you go?" I made stew, a parting meal. The betas looked surprised. They had expected a fight, not hospitality. "Why would you want to feed us?" the short man asked, suspicious. I kept my eyes down, playing the part of the submissive Omega they expected me to be. In my old pack, it was tradition to share a meal before saying goodbye. Please, it would mean a lot to me. The tall woman sniffed the air. "Smells good. And we did travel far today." "Fine," said the short man. "A quick meal, then we take the pup." Relief flooded through me, but I was careful not to show it. "Please, sit," I said, gesturing to the table. They sat while I ladled stew into bowls, my hands shaking slightly. Shadow stayed by my side, watching everything with his wise blue eyes. "Why does the Alpha Council want Shadow?" I asked as I served them, trying to sound just curious, not suspicious. The woman took a big bite of stew before answering. "The pup is royal blood, the last of the old king's line." "But why does that matter?" I pressed. "If King Rowan has been declared a traitor?" The short man laughed, his mouth full of food. "Royal pups have special powers that grow as they age. The council needs him, especially if he's the last of that bloodline." "Special powers?" I looked at Shadow with new wonder. What powers did he have? What would he be able to do when he grew up? "And what will happen to Shadow once you take him?" I asked, still in my meek voice. The tall woman shrugged. "He'll be raised by the council, trained to use his powers for them." Another beta, one who hadn't spoken before, added, "If he cooperates." A chill ran down my spine at his tone. If Shadow didn't cooperate, what would they do to him? I didn't want to know. I watched anxiously as they ate, waiting for the herbs to take effect. It wouldn't make them sleep right away, just make them slow and tired. "This is good stew," said the woman, already on her second bowl. "You're not a bad cook for an Omega with no scent." I froze. "How did you know I have no scent?" The short man smirked. "Everyone knows about you. The defective Omega who stole the king's attention." My cheeks grew hot. "I didn't steal anything." He came to me. "And look where that got him," the man said with a mean laugh. "Declared a traitor, hunted by his own people, all because he couldn't stay away from a broken wolf like you." Anger flared inside me, hot and bright. "I'm not broken," I said, my voice stronger than before. "And neither is Gray." The betas looked up, surprised by my tone. "This council you serve," I said, no longer pretending to be meek. "Who are they really? Why did they turn against their king?" The tall woman's eyes narrowed. "Watch your tone, Omega. The council is made up of the most powerful alphas from all 7 territories. They decided Rowan was unfit to rule alone." "Unfit? Why?" "He put the old ways above progress, refused to share royal secrets with the other packs." Her eyes went to Shadow. "Refused to allow the royal pups to be trained as weapons." Weapons. They wanted to use Shadow as a weapon. Horror filled me at the thought. I noticed the betas' movements were getting slower. The herb was working. One of them yawned widely. "Feeling tired?" I asked, unable to keep a small smile from my face. The short man blinked slowly. Then his eyes widened with understanding. You put something in the food." He tried to stand but stumbled, grabbing the table for support. The others realized too late what had happened. They struggled to get up, their movements clumsy and slow. "What did you do?" The tall woman slurred, her eyes half closed. "I protected my family," I said. The short man lunged for me, but his movements were too slow. I easily stepped aside. He fell to the floor with a heavy thud. "Shadow now!" I shouted. Shadow darted for the door, but the 4th beta, who had eaten less than the others, managed to grab him. Shadow yelped in pain. Rage like I had never felt before exploded inside me. I grabbed the hot pot of stew and threw it at the beta's face. He screamed, letting go of Shadow to wipe the hot liquid from his eyes. "Run!" I yelled to Shadow, who bolted out the door. The tall woman grabbed my arm, her grip still strong despite the sleeping herb. "You'll pay for this," she growled. "No," I said, twisting free. "You'll pay for trying to take what isn't yours." I ran for the door, but the short man grabbed my ankle from where he lay on the floor. I fell hard, pain shooting through my hands as they hit the wooden floor. "You're not going anywhere," he said, his voice thick and slow but still menacing. I kicked at his hand, again and again, until he let go with a howl of pain. Scrambling to my feet, I ran outside. Shadow was waiting for me at the edge of the trees. When he saw me, he ran alongside as we fled into the forest. Behind us, I could hear the betas shouting, their voices angry but distant. The herb would slow them down, but not for long. We ran upstream, splashing through the water so they couldn't track our scent. When we reached the waterfall and hidden cave, I stopped. "In you go," I told Shadow. "Stay hidden." But Shadow wouldn't move. He stood firm, looking back the way we had come, a low growl in his throat. That's when I heard them, crashing through the forest, coming our way. The betas had recovered faster than I expected. There was no time for Shadow to hide in the cave. We had to keep running. "Come on!" I cried, turning to run deeper into the forest. We ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like they would break. The forest grew thicker, the trees taller and closer together. I had no idea where we were going, just away from the betas. Finally, I couldn't run anymore. I collapsed against a huge old pine tree, gasping for breath. Shadow pressed against me, his own breathing fast but steady. "I think we lost them," I panted. But I spoke too soon. A twig snapped nearby, then another. "I can smell the pup," called a voice, the tall woman Beta. "They're close." I looked around frantically. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. We were trapped. "Shadow," I whispered, "when they come, you run. Don't worry about me. Just run as far as you can." Shadow growled, pressing closer to me. He wasn't going to leave me. I knew it as surely as I knew my own name. The betas emerged from the trees, surrounding us. All four looked angry, their eyes hard and cold. The one I had hit with the stew had red marks on his face that would turn into burns. "You'll regret that trick, Omega," the short man said, his voice like ice. "Now, give us the pup, and maybe we'll let you live." I stood up straight, putting myself between them and Shadow. My legs shook with fear and exhaustion, but I didn't let it show on my face. "No," I said. The word was small but strong. "No?" the woman repeated, as if she couldn't believe her ears. "You dare refuse us? 4 betas?" "I dare," I said, my voice growing stronger. "Shadow stays with me. He's my family." They laughed, the sound cruel and mocking. "Family?" the short man sneered. "You have no family. You're nothing but a defective Omega. Nobody wants you. Nobody needs you." Once, those words would have cut me deeply. Once, I would have believed them, but not anymore. "Gray wants me," I said. "Gray needs me. And Shadow needs me too." I lifted my chin. "And I'm not defective. I'm rare." The 4 betas moved closer, forming a tight circle around us. Shadow growled, showing his teeth. "Enough talk," the tall woman said. "Take the pup. Kill the Omega if she resists." They rushed at us from all sides. I had no weapon, no plan, just my body and my will to protect Shadow. I threw myself over him, covering his small body with mine. "You'll have to kill me first," I shouted. "And then Gray will hunt you down and tear you apart." I closed my eyes, waiting for the pain of their attack, but it never came. Instead, I heard gasps and the sound of footsteps backing away. I opened my eyes and almost gasped myself. A soft, golden light surrounded me and Shadow. It came from my chest, from the wolf charm Gray had given me. It grew brighter and brighter until I had to squint against it. The betas covered their eyes, backing away in fear. "What is this?" the short man cried. "What kind of magic is this?" I had no answer. I didn't know what was happening either. The charm grew hotter against my skin, almost burning but not quite. Then, to my complete shock, Shadow began to glow too. His silver fur shimmered with the same golden light. His blue eyes turned as bright as stars. "The royal mark," whispered the tall woman. "She bears the royal mark. The king has claimed her." The 4 betas looked at each other, fear clear on their faces. "The Alpha Council didn't tell us she was marked by the king," said one. "They must not have known," replied another. I had no idea what they were talking about, but I wasn't going to show my confusion. I stood taller, letting the golden light shine around me like a shield. "Leave now," I said, my voice echoing strangely in the quiet forest. "Tell your council that Shadow stays with me, by order of the king." For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the 4 betas backed away. "This isn't over," the tall woman said, but her voice lacked conviction. "It is for today," I replied. They turned and ran, disappearing into the trees as quickly as they had come. When they were gone, the golden light faded slowly. Shadow stopped glowing. The wolf charm cooled against my skin. I sank to the ground, my legs too weak to hold me up anymore. Shadow crawled into my lap, licking my face with worried whines. "I don't know what just happened," I told him, stroking his fur with shaking hands. "But I think Gray left us more protection than I realized." I touched the wolf charm around my neck. What was it really? What power did it hold? And what had the beta meant about the royal mark? So many questions. But one thing was clear, we weren't safe at the stone house anymore. We needed to find a new place to hide until Gray returned. If he returned? No, I couldn't think like that. He would come back. He had to. Come on, Shadow, I said, struggling to my feet. We need to keep moving. As we walked deeper into the unknown forest, I thought about what the betas had said, about the Alpha Council, about Gray being declared a traitor, about Shadow being wanted for his power. There was a bigger battle happening than I had realized, and somehow I had become part of it. The scared, lonely Omega I once was would have hidden, run away, given up, but I wasn't that girl anymore. I looked down at Shadow, walking bravely beside me despite his young age and small size. He had never given up, and neither would I. We'll find Gray, I promised Shadow, and we'll fight anyone who tries to take you away from us, because that's what families do. They stay together. Shadow barked once, as if saying yes. His blue eyes shone with trust and love. The sun began to set as we walked, turning the sky the color of fire, like Gray's golden eyes, like a promise waiting to be kept. For 3 days and nights, Shadow and I wandered through the deep forest. We slept under the stars, drank from small streams, and ate berries that I knew were safe. Shadow caught a rabbit once, sharing it with me after I cooked it over a tiny fire. My feet hurt from walking. My heart hurt from worry. The golden wolf charm around my neck stayed cool now. It's magic, if that's what it had been silent. On the 4th day, we found a small cave behind a cluster of pine trees. It was dry inside and well hidden. We can stay here for a while, I told Shadow, setting down my small pack. Rest and make a plan. Shadow explored the cave, sniffing every corner before settling down near the entrance where he could watch the forest. He had grown so much in the months since Gray brought him to me. No longer a tiny pup who could fit in my hands, but a young wolf with sharp teeth and watchful eyes. I gathered wood for a fire as the afternoon sun slipped toward the horizon. The days were getting shorter. Fall was coming. Soon it would be too cold to sleep outside. What are we going to do, Shadow? I asked as I struck sparks onto my pile of dry twigs. We can't keep running forever. Shadow's ears perked up suddenly. He stood, facing the forest, his body tense. My heart jumped to my throat. What is it? Are they back? I grabbed a thick branch from my firewood pile, ready to fight. But Shadow wasn't growling. His tail wagged slightly, just the tip moving back and forth. Then I heard it too. Footsteps. Just one person moving quickly through the trees. Shadow barked once, a happy sound, and ran into the forest. Shadow, wait! I cried, running after him. The sun was setting, painting the forest in red and gold light. Long shadows stretched between the trees like dark fingers. I couldn't see where Shadow had gone. Shadow! I called again, fear making my voice shake. Then I heard his bark again, from up ahead. Not a scared bark, an excited one. I ran toward the sound, pushing past low branches and jumping over fallen logs. The golden light of sunset blinded me when I broke through the trees into a small clearing. I stopped, my heart forgetting to beat for a moment. Shadow wasn't alone. A tall figure stood in the center of the clearing, the setting sun behind him, turning him into a dark shape rimmed with fire. Shadow jumped around his legs, tail wagging wildly. I knew that shape, that broad-shouldered silhouette, the way he stood, like a mountain that could never be moved. Gray? I whispered, afraid I was dreaming. The figure turned, and the last rays of sun lit up his face, those golden eyes I had dreamed about every night. That strong jaw, now covered in a short beard, that mouth that had kissed me so gently. Gray! I cried, running to him. He opened his arms and I threw myself into them, nearly knocking him over. His arms closed around me, strong and warm and real. He smelled like pine and night air and home. I found you, he said, his deep voice rumbling through his chest against my ear. I've been looking for days. I pulled back to look at his face, touching it to make sure he was real. You came back. I promised I would. Tears filled my eyes, spilling down my cheeks. I had been so scared, so alone, even with Shadow by my side. The relief of seeing Gray again was almost too much to bear. He wiped my tears away with his thumbs, just like he had before he left. You're safe now, both of you. Shadow barked again, jumping up to put his paws on Gray's leg. Gray laughed, a sound I had rarely heard from him, and knelt to rub Shadow's ears. He's grown, Gray said with pride in his voice. And strong, too. We've been running, I said, the words coming out in a rush. The Beta Council came for Shadow. They said you were a traitor, that Shadow had special powers they needed. We fought them off, but they'll come back. The necklace you gave me, it glowed with golden light and scared them away, but I don't know why or how. Gray put a finger gently to my lips. Slow down. Let's get inside. It's not safe out in the open. We can talk there. He took my hand and we walked back to the cave, Shadow running ahead of us. Inside, Gray added more wood to my small fire until it blazed bright and warm. In the firelight, I could see him clearly. He looked tired, thinner than before. A new scar ran along his left cheekbone, still pink and fresh. You're hurt, I said, reaching to touch the scar. He caught my hand, kissing my palm. It's nothing. A reminder to be faster next time. We sat close together by the fire, Shadow curled up between us. Gray kept one arm around my shoulders, as if afraid I might disappear if he let go. Tell me everything, he said. From the beginning. What happened after I left? I told him about the betas coming to the stone house, about my plan with the sleeping herbs, about running into the forest, about the golden light from the wolf charm that had saved us. Gray listened without interrupting, his golden eyes reflecting the firelight. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. The necklace, he finally said. May I see it? I pulled the silver chain from under my shirt, the small wolf charm resting in my palm. It looked ordinary now, just a pretty piece of jewelry. Gray touched it gently. This is more than a necklace. It's a royal marker, a sign of protection given by kings to those under their personal care. I blinked in surprise. But why did it glow? Why were the betas so afraid of it? Gray smiled. Because it means you're mine, under my protection. To harm you is to attack the king himself, a crime punishable by death. The beta woman called it a royal mark. She said you had claimed me. Gray nodded. And so I have. His golden eyes grew serious. But only if you wish it. My heart beat faster. What does that mean exactly? Being claimed by a king? It means many things, Gray said, his voice soft. But most importantly, it means I love you. That I choose you as my mate, my queen. The world seemed to stop spinning for a moment. Queen? I repeated. Sure I had heard wrong. Yes. Gray took both my hands in his. I should have told you everything from the beginning. No more secrets between us. He took a deep breath. My real name is Rowan, King of the Northern Alliance. My father ruled before me, and his father before him, back 20 generations. Our bloodline carries special powers. We can shift faster, heal quicker, and some of us have gifts of sight or strength beyond normal wolves. Shadow made a small sound, as if he was listening to the story too. My brother Alaric was next in line after me, Gray continued. He mated with a wolf from the Eastern Territories, a love match against my father's wishes. They had a son. His hand went to Shadow's head, stroking the silver fur. This son, I gasped. Shadow is your nephew? A prince? Gray nodded. The last of our direct bloodline besides me. His true name is Kalen, though Shadow suits him well too. I looked at Shadow, no, Kalen, with new eyes. The silver fur, the intelligent blue eyes, the way he seemed to understand everything we said. 3 months ago, Gray said, his voice growing hard. There was a plot. A group of alphas from across the territories, led by my own cousin, Marcus, decided our family had held power too long. They wanted to use the royal bloodline's powers for their own gain, to make weapons and seize control of all 7 territories. Gray's hand tightened on mine. They attacked during the night. My brother and his mate were killed in their sleep. I barely got to say to Shadow in time. We ran, but they hunted us for days. That night of the storm, when I brought him to you, we had been running for 5 days straight. I was wounded. He was dying. I needed somewhere safe to leave him while I led the hunters away. But why me? I asked the question that had been in my heart since that stormy night. Gray's golden eyes softened. I saw you at the spring gathering, standing alone, yet proud, watching everyone with such longing in your eyes. I knew then you were different, special. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. When we locked eyes across that clearing, I felt something I had never felt before, a connection that seemed to reach into my very soul. My cheeks grew warm at his words. I felt it too. That's why I ran. I asked about you, learned about the Omega with no scent, how you lived alone yet survived, how you knew herbs and healing. His voice grew passionate. Don't you see? You were perfect, kind enough to take in a dying pup, strong enough to live on your own, invisible enough that no one would look for him with you. The pieces fell into place in my mind. So you brought him to me and then came back to check on him. At first, yes, Gray admitted. But then I came back for you too. I couldn't stay away. The more I knew you, the more you what? I whispered, hardly daring to hope. The more I loved you, Gray said simply. The more I knew you were meant to be mine, my mate, my queen. Joy rose inside me, like the sun breaking through clouds. But I'm just an Omega, with no scent, no pack, nothing special. Gray shook his head. You're everything special. Your pack was blind not to see it. He touched the wolf charm at my throat. And you do have a scent. The sweetest scent I've ever known. Like wild honey and summer rain. I stared at him in shock. But that's impossible. Everyone always said. They were wrong, Gray interrupted gently. Your scent was dormant, waiting for your true mate to awaken it. Waiting for me. Could it be true? Had I never been broken at all? Just waiting, as Gray had said that night by the fire, to bloom? Shadow Kalen put his head on my lap, his blue eyes looking up at me with what seemed like a smile. What happens now? I asked, still trying to take in everything Gray had told me. The Beta Council thinks you're a traitor. They're hunting Shadow Kalen for his powers. Gray's face grew serious again. That's why I came back. It's time to end this. What do you mean? I've spent these weeks gathering allies, wolves loyal to the old ways. To me, we're ready to take back the throne. His golden eyes blazed with inner fire. But first, I need to know. Will you stand with me? Will you be my queen? My head spun with the question. Me, a queen? It seemed impossible, like something from a fairy tale, not real life. But the other wolves, I said, they won't accept me. An Omega from nowhere, with no pack, no bloodline. They will accept you because I choose you, Gray said firmly. And because you've proven yourself worthy 100 times over. You saved the last royal prince. You faced down betas with nothing but your wits and courage. You are exactly what our people need in a queen. He took my face in his hands, his eyes serious. But none of that matters if it's not what you want. I would give up my throne before I would give up you. Just say the word, and we'll disappear together, you, me, and Kalen. Find a place far away where no one knows us. The offer stole my breath away. He would give up everything, his throne, his birthright, his duty for me? What do you want? I asked, needing to know his true heart. Gray was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I want to be a good king," he finally said, "to protect my people, to honor my brother's memory by raising his son to be strong and kind." His eyes found mine again. "But most of all, I want you by my side, every day, every night, for the rest of our lives." "Shadow no," Kaelin barked, as if in agreement, making us both smile. "The choice is yours," Gray said. "Queen or fugitive, palace or forest cabin. I will follow wherever you lead." I looked into the fire, thinking about everything that had happened since that stormy night, how I had changed from a lonely, broken girl into someone who could fight for those she loved, someone who could be loved in return. Then I looked at Gray, at Rowan the King, who had seen me when no one else did, who had trusted me with the most precious thing in his life, who loved me despite everything. And I looked at Kaelin, the silver wolf pup who had become my family, who had given me a purpose when I had none. The answer was clear, had been clear for a long time. "I choose you," I said, my voice strong and sure. "Both of you. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Gray's face lit up with a smile so bright it outshone the fire. He pulled me into his arms, kissing me with all the love and passion that had been growing between us for months. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, he pressed his forehead to mine. "Tomorrow, we return to the palace. We take back what's ours." "I'm scared," I admitted. "I don't know how to be a queen." "You already are," Gray said. "You just haven't worn the crown yet." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small that gleamed in the firelight. A ring made of silver, with a stone the exact color of his golden eyes. "This was my mother's," he said, holding it up. "It belongs to the Queen of the Northern Alliance. It belongs to you now." With trembling fingers, I took the ring. It was heavy and warm, like it had been waiting for me. "Put it on," Gray urged softly. I slipped it onto my finger. It fit perfectly, as if made for me. As soon as the ring was on my hand, the wolf charm around my neck began to glow again. The same golden light as before, but softer, steadier. Kaelin's fur shimmered too, catching the light like dewdrops on a spider's web. "What's happening?" I asked, watching the light dance around us. Gray smiled, his golden eyes reflecting the glow. "Magic, the oldest kind there is." He touched the ring on my finger. "The ring recognizes you, accepts you. You are queen now, in truth as well as name." The light slowly faded, leaving the cave in normal firelight once more. But something had changed. I could feel it in the air, in my blood, in my heart. I was no longer just me, no longer the Omega with no scent, no worth, no future. I was a queen, a mate, a mother to a prince. Gray pulled me close again, his arms strong around me. Kaelin curled up against my legs, his warm weight a comfort. "Tomorrow," Gray whispered against my hair. "Tomorrow we take back our kingdom." I closed my eyes, letting myself believe in the future he promised. A future where I belonged, where I was loved, where I was enough. "Tomorrow," I agreed, holding tight to my king and our silver prince. Outside, the stars appeared one by one in the night sky, watching over us like the eyes of all the great kings and queens who had come before, watching over the new family that had been forged in storm and fire and love, a family that would change everything. 2 years later, the northern palace shone in the early morning light. Snow covered the ground like a soft white blanket. Icicles hung from the tall towers, sparkling like diamonds when the sun hit them. Winter had come to the mountains, turning the world quiet and beautiful. I stood on the balcony of the royal chambers, wrapped in a thick fur cloak. The cold air nipped at my cheeks, but I didn't mind. After growing up in a tiny cabin in the woods, I still loved being outside even in winter. Below me, in the training yard, a large silver wolf raced through the snow. Kalen had grown so much. No longer the tiny, dying pup Gray had brought me that stormy night. Now he was almost fully grown, his silver fur thick and shining, his blue eyes bright with intelligence and joy. He ran circles around the younger wolves who tried to catch him, always staying just out of reach. His laugh, when in human form, sounded just like his father's Gray's brother who had died protecting him. But his smile was all his own. "He's getting faster," said a deep voice behind me, strong arms wrapped around my waist, pulling me against a warm chest. Gray King Rowan to everyone else rested his chin on top of my head. "Soon he'll be faster than you," I teased, leaning back into my mate's embrace. Gray laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. "Perhaps, but I still have a few tricks he hasn't learned yet." I turned in his arms to look up at him. 2 years as king had added a few silver streaks to his black hair, but his golden eyes were the same warm when they looked at me, fierce when needed for his duties. "The council meeting is in an hour," I reminded him, "and the Eastern Pack leaders arrive at noon." Gray groaned, pressing his forehead to mine. "Must we? I'd rather stay here with you all day." I smiled, touching his cheek where the scar still marked his skin. "The king's work is never done. The queen's work either," he said, his hand moving to rest on my rounded belly. "Our child, our first, grew there, already strong enough to kick against his father's palm." The baby kicked again, making Gray grin with pride. "Another fighter," he said. "Another stubborn wolf, you mean?" I replied, covering his hand with mine, like his father. We stood there a moment longer, watching Kalen play in the snow below. Our family, still growing, still healing, still learning. 2 years ago, I would never have believed this could be my life. From lonely Omega to queen of the Northern Alliance. From a girl with no scent to a woman whose power could be felt throughout 7 territories. The battle for the throne had not been easy. The traitors, led by Gray's cousin Marcus, had not given up without a fight. There had been blood, pain, loss, but in the end, Gray had taken back his kingdom, with me by his side. I remembered the day of our mating ceremony, just 1 month after our return to the palace. I had been so nervous, sure that everyone would laugh at the idea of an Omega Queen. A girl from nowhere, with no important family, no pack connections. But when I walked into the great hall, wearing a dress of pure white with silver stars sewn into the fabric, the gathered wolves had not laughed. They had bowed. To me, an Omega who had once been called broken. "What are you thinking about?" Gray asked, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "You have that faraway look." "Just remembering," I said, "how far we've come." Gray smiled, understanding in his eyes. From a stormy night and a dying pup? From a girl who thought she was broken and a king who showed her she was just waiting to bloom. Gray kissed me then, soft and sweet. Even after 2 years, his kiss still made my heart race like the first time. A knock at the door broke us apart. "Enter," Gray called, his arm still around me. Leah, my first lady in waiting, came in with a bow. She had been one of the few who welcomed me from the start, seeing past my Omega status to the person beneath. "My queen, the Healer's Council awaits you in the Eastern Tower," she said. "They've brought the herbs you requested." I nodded. "Thank you, Leah. I'll be there shortly." When she left, Gray raised an eyebrow. "More herbs? Haven't you filled every room in the palace with drying plants already?" I poked him in the chest. "Those herbs saved your nephew's life. And yours too, if you remember the poison dart last summer." Gray caught my hand, bringing it to his lips. I remember everything you've done, my love. How you've changed this kingdom for the better." It was true, though I didn't like to boast about it. The healing knowledge I had learned alone in my cabin had grown into something much bigger. Now I led a council of healers who worked throughout the 7 territories, bringing medicine to wolves who needed it, no matter their rank or pack. "I should go," I said, though I didn't really want to leave the warmth of his arms. The council will be waiting for you too. Gray sighed but nodded. We had both learned that ruling meant putting duty before personal wishes, at least some of the time. I changed into a simple blue dress, more practical for working with herbs than my formal clothes. As queen, I could have worn fine dresses all the time, but I still preferred comfort when doing real work. As I walked through the palace halls, wolves bowed as I passed, not out of fear, as they once had for previous rulers, but out of respect. I had earned that respect fighting alongside Gray to reclaim the throne, healing the wounded afterward, showing mercy to those who surrendered, and strength to those who did not. The Eastern Tower had become my special place in the palace, filled with light from tall windows. Its circular rooms were perfect for drying herbs and mixing medicines. Today, 5 healers waited for me there, each from a different territory, each eager to share knowledge and learn. "My queen," they said, bowing as I entered. "Please just call me by my name when we're working," I reminded them with a smile. "We're all healers here." They smiled back, relaxing. This was the part of being queen I loved best, breaking down the old walls between ranks, showing that an Omega could lead just as well as an Alpha, in her own way. We spent the morning with plants and bottles, mixing cures for winter coughs and fevers. I showed them how to use the rare blue flower that only grew near my old cabin, how its petals could bring down even the highest fever if prepared correctly. At midday, a young page came running in. "My queen, the king requests your presence in the great hall. The Eastern pack has arrived early." I thanked the boy and quickly washed my hands, changing into a more formal dress that my attendants had ready. "We'll continue tomorrow," I told the healers. "You're all doing wonderful work." As I walked to the great hall, I caught my reflection in a polished silver mirror in the hallway. Sometimes I still expected to see that scared girl with sad eyes looking back at me, but the woman in the mirror now stood tall, her eyes clear and confident, her head held high. The great hall hummed with voices when I entered. Gray sat on his throne, looking every inch the powerful Alpha King in his formal clothes. Kaelin stood beside him, now in human form, dressed in the silver and blue of a royal prince. When they saw me, both their faces lit up with the same smile. My family. Gray held out his hand as I approached. I took it, feeling the warm strength of his fingers around mine. "The Eastern Alpha brings news of unusual wolf sightings at their borders," Gray whispered as I sat in my throne beside his. "We may need your special insight." I nodded, ready to listen, to help, to be the queen my people needed. The queen Gray had always seen in me, even when I couldn't see it myself. Later that night, after councils and meetings and formal dinners, our family gathered in our private chambers. Kaelin practiced his shifting, still clumsy sometimes when changing from wolf to human and back again. Gray watched with pride, offering advice from his years of experience. I sat by the fire, one hand on my growing belly, feeling our child move beneath my palm. This was what I had never dared to dream of in my lonely cabin. A family, a purpose, a place where I truly belonged. "What are you smiling about?" Gray asked, coming to sit beside me. "Everything," I said simply. He took my hand, the one with his mother's ring still shining on my finger. "Are you happy, my queen?" I looked at him, this man who had seen me when no one else did. At Kaelin, the pup we had saved together, who was now growing into a fine young wolf. At the life growing inside me, a new beginning. "More than happy," I said. "I'm home." Outside, snow fell softly against the windows. Inside, the fire burned warm and bright. And in my heart, where loneliness had once lived, now there was only love. The Omega with no scent had become a queen, with the strongest presence in 7 territories. The girl who had been called broken had healed a kingdom. I had bloomed, just as Gray had said I would. Not despite being different, but because of it.